Let's go back to that top view with the 7 key on the numpad, and let's just begin extruding out to about right here where the hood ends and the fender begins. So with this edge selected, I'm here in edge mode. I'm going to go ahead and hit E, and I'm just going to slide this over. And I'll hit E again. And maybe I'll do it one more time right here, just like that. All right. Now, we could clean this up a bit. We could take this and hit G and kind of move it and kind of make these a little bit more uniform if we want. I'll hit Alt-A to deselect. Now I can press the 1 key to grab this vertex to go to vertex mode and hit the G key and just move it at an angle kind of like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select this edge back here and extrude it back. So to select this edge, I can click this vertex and then press Control and click this vertex, and it'll select everything in between those two selections. Now, the problem we're going to have is we're going to need to see both the top and the side view at the same time, because let's just say I hit E and pull this forward like this, or pull this back. Now I can bring it out or I can bring it straight, either way, but let's just say if I did this like this, and then I could grab this vertex and move it over like that. There we go. Okay, so now we've got this in place. However, if I hit the 3 key, you can see that I've actually just gone flat. I've just extruded along the y-axis there. So we don't want that. We should really do this while we're looking at the two views, the front and the side. So we could come up here to this corner right here of the 3D view and click and drag and pull out a whole new screen. Blender is very adaptable in this way. You can create and arrange as many windows as you want. If you want to get rid of this, you can hover over the border between these two windows and right-click, choose Join Areas, and then just move the mouse in the direction you want to expand the window. So I want to expand this one to the right. So there we go. Now we're back to just one view. There's also another way to do this. Of course, as we've seen, there's always a few ways to do any given things in Blender. We can also open up the quad view, and to do that you press Control-Alt-Q, and that will open up this quad view. So what we have here is a top view, a front view, a side view, and the view you were in when you hit Control-Alt-Q. And we were in the right orthographic view, but I could just use that middle mouse button to tumble around and see it in perspective here. Okay, so now I'm going to click here to minimize that window. Now we see it from the front and the top and the side, and that's what we want. That's going to help us a lot. So I'm going to click on this here and control click that vertex on the end, and now here in the right orthographic view I can hit G and just move that up so it's in line with the hood there from the side view. In addition, I'd like to make this a little bit more evenly spaced again. So if I take this one, I can kind of move it out like this. Hit G, move it out like this. So kind of space these a little bit better as we extend it back toward the windshield. These two, I could also move these over a bit like this, kind of like that. So it's just trying to keep things fairly neat, fairly organized, fairly uniform as we bring it back toward the windshield. Now we've got this thing right here, this indentation on the top of the hood. We should probably take this into account. So what I'd like to do is just grab this edge here and just move it up and back like this. And I'm just pulling it out to the side just a bit as I do to keep it in line with this part of the hood right here. So I think something like that, right up to the tip of there. And then maybe I'll grab these as well, control click here, and kind of bring these out to there. There we go. So it just makes it a little bit more even. But now that we've done that in the top view, you can see we're off a bit down here in the side view. But that's why we're doing this. So that's why we're doing it this way. To select all of these here, I can once again click here and then control click here. Or I can also hit the B key for border select and then click and drag all of these right here. There we go. And now I'll move that up. There we go. Let's now extrude again and pull this back. So what I'll do with these still selected, I'll hit E and I'll pull back and I'll kind of stretch out just a bit like this. I don't know that we need this stretched out quite that far like this. and move that one. And now, of course, we need to hit border select, hit the B key, border select these. Oh, I still have this one selected. I better press Shift and click that to deselect it. Now I'll hit G and move them up here in the side view like that. Now there are a couple of things I need to keep in mind as I do this. One is how this indentation goes straight back along the length of the hood, and this part over here kind of angles. So what I want to do is kind of match the geometry of what I'm doing here to this so that I can just select these faces and extrude them down. So I'm going to hit the Z key and go to wireframe here so I can see through the polygons to the image below. So I'll take this vertex and kind of move it over here, and this vertex and move it here. So you can see I'm just trying to build the edge of that indentation as we go. Now this one could move over here, I guess, and this one over here. We're going to lose our uniformity over here if we do that. We could also insert a new edge loop in here as well too. So if we take this and control click this and hit G 2 times, I'll hit the G key 2 times. And what that does is now it allows me to slide that edge along the existing edges of the hood here. So I can select that, let's say, and this, and I can hit G 2 times and slide that over. So you can see how you can kind of reorganize the geometry as you go here. So now to insert one right in there, once again, I can use that Control R shortcut and then click, and then I can slide it around to right about here, and there we go. So now we have an edge that we're going to be able to use to follow that line up the hood. So let's now do that. Let's go ahead and see if we can extend this on. I'm going to move this in like this, trying to keep it fairly uniform as we go. Okay. Now I'm going to hit the B key, border select these, and you see how they're kind of jagged here? We could straighten that up a bit. To do that, to kind of flatten that up, what we can do is scale it in the axis that's perpendicular to the edge. So the axis that's perpendicular to that is the y-axis. So we can select all of these, hit S and then Y, and now see how they kind of flatten up there as we scale them toward the edge right there. So that straightens them up some. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going here. I'm going to hit E and pull forward or pull toward the windshield like that. We need to expand these out just a bit. So what we can do is select these from here to here with Control, and then I can scale these out all at once. Let's give it a try. What I'm going to do is move the 3D cursor to this point, and then I'm going to scale from that point outward toward the side of the vehicle. So I'm going to click this one vertex, and then I'm going to come up here to Mesh and choose Snap. And now we can snap the cursor to the selected vertex. We can also do this with Shift S as well. But I'll click here, and that moves that 3D cursor to that point. Now what we can do is select all of these points. So I'll click here and select all of those. And if I switch to this Move tool, you can see that the pivot point or the center of this selection right here happens to be right here. And if I scale, if I hit S and scale this out, you can see it's going to scale at that point. But I can change this to be at the cursor by coming up here, pulling down this menu and say, make the pivot point the 3D cursor. So I'll click here, and now you can see that pivot point has moved to where the 3D cursor is. Now what we can do is scale in the X, and it'll scale from this point. So I'll hit S and X. And now look at this. See, we can scale it from that point. So now we can move this out and in as needed. And it looks to me like I went a little bit too far out right on this line here. So what let's do is let's do that again. I'll take that point. I'll go to Mesh, Snap, Cursor to Selected. Now let's select all of these points, S and X. And we can scale those in and out there as well, right? So you can go through and do that for any of these if you want to get these in line. So let's say we do it one more time. I'm going to press Shift S this time, and now I get this pie menu, Cursor to Selected or the 2 key. Now I'm going to Control click this, press S and X, and there we go. All right, so in the next video, what let's do is finish this up, and then we'll use the extrude tool to push that inset down into the hood. So that's coming up next.